or to the cloud.
There you go.
Good morning. Happy holidays, everyone. This is the December 17th meeting of the Outreach, the State Board of Education's Outreach and Advocacy Committee meeting. Today, I think we have a short agenda if anybody wants to add any items, but essentially we'll just do our usual debrief of testimony and see if there is any thing that we need to pick up or specifically address. And we'll revisit next steps for our parent advisory committee. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
I don't think so.
Nope. Can you, Carleen, can you move up a little bit? Because I can't hear you as well. Or turn your volume up. Or...
I don't know.
Where are you, Carly? With all those screens? Ah,
Can you not hear me? Like I have the earbuds in.
it's a little low.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
That's better right there. That's better right there.
Right here. Okay, just get close.
Put your face on.
I'll see if I also can do something technological. That
Just don't get as close as Melissa Kim did yesterday to the screen.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, okay. Well, here I'll replicate it.
Thank you. Really? Why?
Unbelievable.
Sorry, we're recording. Sorry.
So yeah, it's Wednesday. We had a pretty long meeting. I'm not sure if that was our longest, but
Pretty long is
It
hardly.
was longest, and it was the
Was that the
last.
longest?
I want to say
Okay.
yes. I don't think we've ever gone past 10. That
Yeah,
was
well,
It was 5 hours and 3 minutes.
We had a lot of
But it was
resolutions.
good.
It was great. Yeah, the panel was solid. The testimony was great and helpful. But I think we had too many resolutions. That's something to discuss in the new year. But anyway, to be.
Well, if you think about it, it was kind of like the perfect storm of a big panel
Yes,
and a lot of public comment and 6 or 7 resolutions.
it was a lot of everything. It was just
Yeah.
like, let's end the year with just a lot and a lot of new business and just a lot. So
Is this better?
more is more. No,
Okay.
no.
Oh dang. I'm toggling something. Okay, but yeah. So yeah, I know most of the presentations or testimony on Wednesday was about star rating. There was one about bullying, and I actually
Which we
talked
couldn't
to that.
hear.
You can't hear me? Oh,
No,
her.
we couldn't
Yes.
hear her at all.
Yes. So I talked to Miss. Well, that's something we're always advocating for is technology and equal access in all homes. But I talked with Miss Harper on Monday, which led her to testify. But she's probably one of a handful. I would say outside of COVID issues and concerns at schools, it's bullying. She's probably the maybe 4th or 5th parent I spoke to or had to refer to Serena and Dan. And outside of like her own child's, what's going on with her individual situation, she actually has just like some recommendations about, who is the point of contact at DCPS when there's bullying? How are things streamlined, or is there any streamlining in like incident reports and where to find that information? But yeah, I mean, I just know schools it's a lot of cultural issues, like when I say it's cultural, like school climate issues that are just going on right now because, we are trying to establish norms again in buildings. But I will say bullying has been my number 1 or number 2 call. So I really don't have anything to offer. Well, I'm offering that is something that I've noticed and just wondering if you all have any thoughts. Maybe if you go with some of the safe passage stuff that we talked about. Frazier, I know you're always saying you're worried about safe passage outside of school, but what about safe passage in the hallways?
Right.
So
And
yeah,
Rep Lopez also brought that up, right?
Say again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Representative Lopez, who's at Czech, she also brought up the just kind of outlandish behavior that's now making students really nervous. And I keep hearing that students are just not, it's not the same as
Oh,
pre-COVID.
no, it's
Yeah,
definitely
so-
not. At
So I think-
Cardozo, it's really bad.
We've been
At
hearing
Rose-
it from like every, like student, teachers and principals now, so, and
Yeah.
parents, the whole, every stakeholder, so. But you have a really specific question, I guess, which is there somebody in DCPS if the principal isn't able to manage it? Like next
Yeah, I mean, I
person
think
to-
John Paul is going to follow up with Ms. Harper directly. And I also know Ms. Harper is advocating for herself. And she put a list of questions. They are very specific to DC question, PS for her questions. But I'm just wondering, how do we just, any ideas we're taking on or thinking about bullying, or is it just something that, citywide is just happening and, we don't have a clear solution or we just need to ponder it? Go ahead, Emily.
I think it's related to the church, like listening to some of the teacher turnover testimony or teacher retention testimony, Fraser. And what I've been hearing from teachers in general and principals is they need things taken off their plates so that they can manage, it's a vicious cycle because they can't proactively build the relationships and the culture that they need to in their classrooms. They know that they have, and what I've heard from several teachers now is a lot of the kids are great and thriving, but every classroom has like several students who are just not doing well and they need extra attention. And it's the opposite that's happening in schools right now because of the shortages. So I think one point of advocacy is like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they need to figure out that clearance process. They need to figure it out because, and I know they're doing something, but like that is making it so that there's, teachers who are already spread thin are covering for other teachers, right? And then also they have all these extra tests and things that they have to do that are taking away from actually building relationships and giving attention to the kids who need the attention. And I think that is like, those are two concrete things that are directly related to the fact that kids are, acting out. They can see that they're not getting the attention they need, So I think those are two places. I don't know. I think it would be good to ask principals, teachers, parents, if that sounds right. And if there are other things that they think maybe we should, be focused on.
If, did y'all hear my testimony? I'm not trying to did you hear my
Yeah,
testimony
I did.
yesterday?
It was good.
Because
I
that
did,
just
Fraser.
Emily just encompassed my testimony. The RTUs, or RTCs or whatever they are. Those are
RTC, yeah.
the assessments that teachers have to give. The fact that the principals can't get the people, they've already interviewed people to come to fill the spots and the spots aren't filled. There are so many, and all those things are part of what makes the school not work. The principal, especially, the thing that really upsets me, well, there are plenty that do, but is the fact that the mayor had set aside money to hire people to come in and relieve the principals from their COVID paperwork.
It's insane. It's
Simple, just relieved. And when the principals heard about that, they were like running in the street screaming, hallelujah. Okay. No school has any person yet because of what Emily was talking about, the clearance process. Okay. There's no reason in the world, all right, especially in 2021, almost 2022. How long will it take for Carlene to get the entire history of my life on the internet? Okay? You can find out whatever you want to know, and it takes you 10 minutes. And yet we can't get people cleared, and it's been over 2 months now. and we can't get anybody, they haven't had anybody cleared to come in and take a spot on a school. I mean, Cardozo has got 11 vacancies and a couple of substitutes, which means that all the principals and all the teachers are covering classes.
Yeah.
And then, and from what, you know, Carlene, you brought up the perfect point, all right? We're not trying to get back to the normal. You know how I feel about that. The new reality is what we want to get to, but the new reality has to look like a principal can manage the building. The principals can't manage the building because they're doing all this COVID paperwork. And they're taking, and piggybacked on this, a small minority of students, but that's all you need, who are bullying students or are disruptive in their classrooms, or when you have substitutes or teachers covering another teacher's class, that's a substitute to students. You know, I can probably tell you that in 40 years at Cardozo, I might have missed 20 days of class. Seriously. And when there was a sub there, I left copious instructions about what to do. All right. But I also knew when I came back the next day, that was my lesson plan for the day. Because a substitute walks into class and sharks smell the blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm just looking, because at the last SHAPE meeting, that Kathy Riley runs, the folks who were assembled came up with all of the issues that are happening in schools, including all the ones we've just talked about, and wrote a letter to Farabee, and he did respond. So I was trying to cut and paste it, but I'm just going to forward it to you guys.
Oh, goodness. Did you read it yet?
I just read the first part, so I haven't read the whole thing. So it says,
Don't bother
increase
yourself to finish it.
personnel in secondary schools. Oh yeah, so I knew this too, they're tapping central office staff, but they're working to expedite clearances, including a shift to a new vendor this winter, who will be responsible for the part that's been taking so long. So that's the
Yeah,
C.
yeah,
I mean, that
whatever.
could go either way, right? We don't know.
Unbelievable.
Oh, there's so thoughts on maybe how to proceed though, in terms of, is there a role for this committee to play in advocacy for those two things? I mean, I think those are, and what is the parent, as a parent of a high schooler?
I think we have to put it out there. I don't know how. Carlene, what do you think? How do we get, I mean, like this thing about the teacher shortage and the substitute shortage is critical, but a lot of people don't know about it. And the system doesn't want to admit that it's a problem, because Melissa Kim talked about it yesterday in her testimony, or talked at it. No solution. And she was the proxy for the chancellor. She's the deputy chancellor. So what she was saying was the truth for them. And it's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think our role would be in regards to raising awareness about this substitute teacher, shortage,
Bless you.
would be,
Bless you again.
using our avenues to advocate for, or not advocate, but like letting people know that, their skill is needed in our schools. So I think that could be done, or we can, I guess a recommendation from this body would just go forward to the board and say, can we like promote on social media or something, advocate around help for schools during this trying time. And I wasn't sure what the second.
It was around removing some of the tasks that teachers are being asked to do, apparently. So there's added, curricular assessment tasks, and then there's added additional added tests that they're doing from pre-K up. And then also apparently they're being asked to upload data manually on a new platform that sounds like it's very time consuming. So these are all like added tasks that are taking away from teachers' ability to actually attend to, like some of the teachers I spoke with told me that even during their, leap time, their PD, they're talking about how to use this platform instead of talking about how to,
Look, I don't,
teach better. So they're saying like all of their time basically is taken up either covering classes or doing this data stuff. And some schools have actually been like, have had somebody from Central come down and, scold them for not complying with the data upload. So apparently it's just really intense, the focus on compliance and data at a time when I thought there was acknowledgement that we were not going to do that, that we were going to focus on actual like student and just the needs of the whole school community, right? That's, yeah. So I think that's the other part is figure out, where we can make room for teachers to breathe and actually do what they need to do for students.
that's not
I think
happening
you
at all.
hit the nail on the head, Emily, around we're still pushing for this like sense of normalcy in truly, times that aren't fully normal. And clearly show, disruption in the classroom. And it's kind of like instead of pushing these tests and data and, I feel like people forget that social emotional learning and having kids
For
not execute,
everybody.
having kids execute TikTok videos that, are counterproductive to, classroom. Like those are things that if you're building culture, you don't have, you can focus on versus, we're trying to push math, reading. And like, I have a friend who's in a school and she's like, they have a third grader who is learning how to read. So, I mean, I get that we want that third grader to read, but it's a recipe for behavioral issues if we don't tackle some of the, how do we get students ready to learn? And yeah, so I think the two takeaways are one, if we can like do some kind of promo or something related to or community awareness around that, our schools need help as much as possible in regards to like, if they're community members who have time a day a week to substitute whatever they can give. And then how can we push social emotional learning versus this like chronic math and reading stuff versus getting, support for students. Okay, cool. I think that addresses the bullying, and then everything else, I'm sure outreach or advocate or assessment accountability will address.
I've
All
got,
right.
I've got something that we heard the other day at our public meeting is, DCPS is not doing a good job. But DCPS is an LEA. And we've got all these other LEAs in the city. And some of the LEAs in the city aren't having these problems.
Right.
And they have the same kids that we have in DCPS. So I think, and I know it's an ask and it's a large one, because I was really impressed with Mr. Branch.
Yeah.
With his test and with what's going on in that building.
But that's the public, that's DCPS.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying that there are public schools and there are charter schools that are being very successful, but DCPS refuses to acknowledge them as a role model for what you could do in another school.
Yeah, that's
I will say some of our principals who have been successful buck the system. And it's
I know.
Yeah, I mean, he can do that because he's been there for like 10 years, but you know, some folks who are, you know, trying to
Or
do certain
afraid of the
things.
system.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but you know, we would lose our minds if
It's
you
not,
know,
look,
somebody
it's
came
not
forward
a
with some great-
coincidence that Anita Berger and Maria Takeva are the longest, have been in principalships the longest, and have two of the most successful schools in DCPS. I mean, I have a whole ward full, charter and public schools, of principals that are just great. I can't even think of a principal that I go to at any of the schools, and I go to the charters and the public schools, who's not just sitting there just doing a fabulous, but here's the example, Whittier. Right? You heard, I mean, you've been hearing me talk about Whittier's HVAC systems and the buildings falling apart and everything else. Now, does that have anything to do with the fact that Whittier has now been closed down because of too many positive COVID, so they're virtual? All right, it might. All right, but it hasn't got anything to do with the people that are working in the building. It's not the principals and the teachers that are the problem. The problem is the system isn't reacting to the problem.
So I think, yeah, I think we're good. I think we've defined the problem. I think so can you say again, I'm sorry, Carlene, what next steps are? For us?
So our next steps are, we're gonna ask the board to consider how we can promote empty or vacant vacancies, substitutes, anything to kind of get more community connected to schools. Even if like volunteering, I would be curious if people would be interested in that. And then the other piece was about advocating around more social emotional versus this push for math, reading, testing,
Yeah, but like
to establish norms in buildings. Yeah.
Should we write a letter? Should we, I mean, what are our best tools for that, do you think? Op-ed?
I was thinking, I was thinking, no, that's gonna be too long. I was thinking about oversight, hearing seasons coming upon us fast. But maybe even like, I know we're coming up on the holidays ourselves, but like, as we're going to a new, it could be a letter, I don't know, something to just say like, we are noticing serious, raise your hand, mute yourself. We are coming up on, like as we restart for New Year, can we think about like how to refresh ourselves and, truly commit to social emotional. So it could be a letter that states like some of the concerns that we're having related to social emotional well-being and some of the outcomes that we're seeing currently in buildings,
Maybe
which could be bullying, in-school violence, all kind of things.
Yeah. What do you think about asking to, in addition to that, I think that's a good idea, but also maybe asking to meet with the chancellor. And I don't know. Too. I see your face. Okay. You don't know.
I mean,
just to get his like why, what
yeah, I mean, I don't expect again any new information, but I think we could get him there to say that we said it to his face.
And I don't mean necessarily at a meeting, but maybe just just us.
Yeah, that could be that. That could be something. I'm not sure if like that would be DCPS. So I'm wondering like, is it something for Superintendent Grant, for Paul Kine? Because it's a citywide issue.
It is, but as Fraser pointed out, I mean, it definitely is. But I think what we named in terms of those extra tasks, that's DCPS. And the clearance process as well. I mean, those two specific, they're specific to DCPS. Sure. And so they're the ones, central, somebody in central, and I assume the chancellor can make it so, like, would be in a position to be able to say, okay, we're going to lift these requirements for, the rest
I like the idea of a more personal meeting versus like a where we're gonna have to get the pre-approved. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll probably still get the pre-approved talking points, but maybe it adds something else with a more intimate setting. To just really say like,
Could we ask somebody in leadership to come to this meeting? You think we'd get, I mean, do you think Christina Grant would come?
She would, but I don't think it's her. She doesn't have,
The power?
it's just not in her wheelhouse. This, what we're talking about, it's
Yeah.
much more direct. It is the chancellor, I think, in this
so
case.
Frazier, when you stepped away, Emily was explaining the same thing to me about like, because the specific tasks I'm being piled on are more specific to DCPS, even though charters are having some social emotional issues too. It's just the chronic like data collection, mining, manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you mention,
okay.
I'm sorry, I had a student call me, believe it or not. Did you talk about at all the getting the people cleared and the COVID person?
We can add the COVID person. We definitely talked about
Because
clearing.
that's something that DCPS,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
a DCPS thing, right? But is that, now, I'm ignorant about it. When the mayor said that they were going to have that, was it for both public and charter schools?
I think it's just for DCPS.
Okay, then we need to find, somebody needs to give us some kind of an answer. Now, I know that Mendelsohn talked about that yesterday in the meeting, but I don't know what kind of answer. I mean, he wasn't getting any answers.
Okay, so we have our list of next steps for the issues raised. Okay, so the next piece is the parent advisory committee. And we know we didn't receive feedback, as you know, other committees and members have been busy, but I think that gives us clearance to do what we want. So
So I put the link in the chat. I can do it again because it was kind of a ways back here. I'll just do it. I also put in the chat a link I forgot to mention in new business that I've been hearing rumblings of, like principals wanting to do virtual after the break. And I don't know if others have been hearing that, but I just saw that Kathy
What they want to do, what? I'm
have
sorry, I
a
can't.
virtual week after the break.
They want a virtual day every week, from what I'm
Yeah,
getting.
and that's a separate thing. I mean, that is part of the taking stuff off the plate. And so that would be good too, actually, a good advocacy point. But this is because this is what Yu Ying is doing, actually. My daughter's school, after Thanksgiving, and now if you're not vaccinated after winter break, you are virtual. And it's really smart. And they have cut down significantly on COVID cases.
How many students do they have?
Yu Yang, I think it's like close to 500.
Oh, okay.
And it's just one school. So, you know, it's easy for them to control what they do. But I will say that we had no COVID cases after like the first month and a half of school because they just controlled it. And after Thanksgiving, there were like 3. And yeah, so they've really managed it well. So when Fraser, you were talking about role models, I think Yu Ying could be a role model for like at least managing that.
The
So
only,
anyway,
I have a small quibble is
Yeah.
that Roosevelt had no cases between the middle of September and the beginning of November.
that's awesome.
And then all of a sudden it's,
Oh,
that's,
Huh.
that's, I'm just, you won't, because you're not going to see any cases for the next week, I don't think.
but that might be, was it after Thanksgiving? The explosion.
Yeah, it was after Thanksgiving.
But that's what I'm saying. I think Yu Ying bucked that by taking, like making us all do virtual for a week. So anyway,
After Thanksgiving?
yeah, because they knew people would be traveling, you know. I didn't mean to derail things. I'm sorry. I'm just saying we may want to add that to the agenda because there's now a petition for that. But I'm sorry. So this link is for the shared doc. Can you access that, Fraser?
Yeah, I can access it, and it says I can't get into it because I got the wrong email or whatever.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me,
But wait a minute, let me see what happens if, because I have to change I'm on my UDC email.
I can email you the hard copy if you want.
Yeah, do that, please.
Yep.
But let me see if I can, you go on. I'm just doing this.
Okay, well, what I would recommend, as I said before, I would recommend going with the first option, but if there's discussion on the other options, then I'm totally open to it, obviously. I mean, yeah, I guess that's my recommendation and I was interested in thoughts.
I'll take your recommendation of going with the what's in our purview and focusing on parent engagement from what we can handle.
Okay. And then within that, there were like two options or two ideas for going forward. So hold on, I'm just sending this to Fraser. I think I'm sending you the right thing. Let me make sure. Hold on, sorry. Weird.
Am I looking at Family Advisory Committee?
Yeah, were you able to open it?
Look at me. I'm so impressed with me.
Okay, good. Then, because this isn't working for some reason, so that's good. All right, so so Fraser, I think what we're deciding is to focus on number one, which is the inquiry group around the standards. So there are federally, set standards that are part of ESSA, and OSCE is responsible for messaging to LEAs about what is required and what are possible ways that they can meet these requirements. And so if you want to look at those guidelines, there's a link underneath this little sample I put in there that says excerpt from OSCE guidelines. But I guess the main question here is, I have option A, which is to bring families together to study aspects of this guidance, or to, I mean, I guess now that I'm looking at it, what would probably make sense is to do that and then figure out where families think it would be wise to focus, right?
When you're talking about, I'm you know how I am. When you're talking about families, what are you looking at as a number?
I don't know. So these are all things that we need to decide. And there's questions at the bottom of this document. And actually, let me just put those in the chat, because, this idea or this document is really sort of just an outline of here are ideas to pursue. We have not thought through at all, like what the steps would be. So I think that is our next step, right? So here are the questions. Is it a permanent body or a task force that, meets for however long? What are, our capacity to follow through? Is it just like we gather the families and they do their thing, or are we like more involved than that? We decided the start date would be sometime in the spring, probably around March, maybe.
Is this something that the student advocate and the ombudsman would be partnered with us?
Yeah, they weighed in on this, and they really liked the first idea of having families sort of weigh in and advocate around the standards and making sure they're being met, or taking part in sort of the advocacy for more robust implementation. I would say that was kind of what they were excited about. And Dan in particular was really interested in being part of it.
No, I'm excited about it too. I just think what I'm throwing around, that's buzzing around in my brain right now, is that we have a ward forum for each of the wards. A family meeting on maybe a Saturday morning with breakfast or with some food or something, donuts, to start off and see how many people we get. With a lot of publicity from the board or from the student advocate's office, or get it on media or whatever. And then see what we get from those, all 8 wards. And then sort of build from that.
I like that, Fraser. I like going to the people instead of making them come to us.
Especially first, because see, I don't trust the system to inform the people. Because every time you hear DCPS talking about, well, we've let the people know, it's because they've let them know through the internet. But my people in Ward 4 and your people in Ward 8 and Emily's people in Ward 1, a lot of our people don't have the internet at home. And that was one of the biggest problems with virtual learning to begin with, and it hasn't been solved. So I think that, we've got to, I've been bringing it up at every meeting since I've been on the board about putting something on the buses. Because I read, when I'm walking every morning, the buses are going up and down 14th Street and up and down 16th Street. That's where I walk. And I see these signs on the buses. I know what's going on in places in the city from what's going on the buses.
I wonder if the public service announcements are free.
Okay, but where do public service announcements go?
On the bus. I'm just saying, like,
On
how,
the bus.
like, there are advertisements, I'm sure those are paid, but I wonder if, like, the ones that are about, if you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, call this number. I would hope that would be free,
Yeah, but like I haven't seen it lately, but I know I went by a bus that was talking about Cardozo Education Campus, and I'm sure that Cardozo Education Campus didn't pay for it.
No,
Now,
right.
maybe the city paid for it, but that's good money spent.
Yeah. So you're saying, Fraser, maybe we should ask DCPS or the mayor or.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, okay. No, I think that's good. And we should also, go on.
Yeah, I was saying this was number 3 option. I think this is like option 3 in your document, Emily.
Yeah.
And I'm all for doing the ward level meetings, because something that always comes up is, decisions made without parents. And I know we often try our best, but we often fall short when, folks say that decisions are made without them. So I definitely think ward level engagement would be great. I also think focusing on whenever we get parents together, definitely ward level issues, but also just kind of cross city issues, knowing that many of our families, at least in Ward 8, attend schools elsewhere. So I understand some of the LEA driven things, but it will be more impactful, at least in my ward, if we had almost ward level parent groups or PTO or community based advocacy, because I think it makes it a little stronger. But
that's a wonderful idea. Where we would have ward level family engagement committees or meetings, and maybe the representative from each of the wards would be the parent advisory committee.
Oh, so now you guys are talking about combining. Is that what you're saying? Like the number 3 and the number 1?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Combining. Listen to Fraser's feedback. And,
No, I like that.
Strategy from 3 to inform number 1, and see have parents talk about especially since parents will be, for Ward 8, it'll be parents who have, children in Ward 4 schools, Ward 7 schools, but they sit and talk about well, then how's your school doing I guess, number one from the chart there, you know, or do you sit down and review the engagement, you know, policy once a year or annually? I think that would be helpful.
So, you
Oh,
know,
and I've got another, see, I don't have a lot of ideas. I just sort of, you bring up stuff that comes into my head. If we had, of course, it won't happen in Ward 3, but that's their problem. If we had a parent, if we had a 16-person committee with a charter parent and a public school parent from each ward. And maybe it would be a 15-person committee because there's no charter schools in Ward 3. But that would, I don't think that would be unwieldy, but it would also bring, because we know that, you know, the parents that come to meetings are activists. Everybody that comes to a meeting is an advocate. And just as when we were talking about the teacher advisory committee, you have to be really careful making it to be representative of all of the teachers rather than just a wing of teachers.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you had a 15-person committee with 2 people from each ward except for Ward 3.
I think that might come later. But I think a starting
Okay,
point.
okay.
Yeah, I think a starting point would be ward level engagement, all wards, with parents specifically as a target audience. And I mean, we caught survey data from 500 folks. So, you know, even teasing out those parents, inviting them would hopefully help shake it up a little bit. And then I think, yeah, I think let's go from there. So
Yeah.
this is basically,
Should it
now
be
our next step.
virtual or live?
I think in
Oh,
person.
person
I
is,
know,
you
I
know what?
know.
I would say this: try to do all ward level in person, and then have a virtual. I heard that from a parent. There was a parent who said she wished at least for the fall engagement there was one session that could have been virtual because she was at home, you know, with her children.
I thought we were
So-
gonna do one virtually. That was the plan, but then I don't know, time, I
I
guess.
understand that part. I'm just wondering about, I don't have any confidence that this virus is going away. I've got a little bit of money that by the middle of January, we're going to be all virtual
Yeah.
in the schools. So, but I would like, I mean, I think that we could get this started in January.
Mm, there was a question of, I don't think January is gonna be, you know,
Hell,
readjusting, and it's just gonna be, we have the leadership and the leadership change and the star stuff. I think we're gonna be, like, staff is just gonna be busy.
Okay, okay.
And we're gonna be
That's-
distracted, but what I would suggest is, yeah, that the outreach maybe start in February. So that the actual panel or committee could begin in the spring, in March. And
okay,
then,
that's-
yeah, because a part of what we were talking about, I think, was that if we're focused on standards and then the committee chooses 1 or 2 or what, you know, to focus on some area, they could meet several times before the next school year, and then they'd be ready to sort of be advocates in the next school year. But wait, I had a thought, about outreach, which is a couple of things. I think it would make sense to maybe somehow get word of mouth is really important, as you all know. You know, I mean, I think especially for those parents you're talking about, Fraser, who don't necessarily have regular access to internet. So in some way, trying to reach out to schools to ask them, like principals, to ask, are there parents you would recommend that we reach out to who wouldn't necessarily be able to access this, or their parents who would know parents, you know, just trying to access through school communities. because those are the trusted communities. And then also, PAVE, I don't want to replicate what they do, actually, I guess. I'm trying to think of like if this overlaps too much, but PAVE has like the ward level parent, I forget what they call them, but they're basically advisory
Parent
committee.
Why don't we invite
PLE.
them to our next meeting?
Yeah, and ask like what they think. I mean, obviously they'd be able to help us with outreach, but
No, that'd be great.
we don't want to, I mean, I think we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We should
No,
see
that's true.
where they can help us and where our outreach would be complementary or, additive.
I just had another thought. What if all the parents are elementary parents rather than secondary parents, or secondary parents rather than elementary parents, or
Maybe
middle
we-
school parents?
We need 3 at least, so it's all levels rather than all sectors, but.
Then you get, yeah, I know it. Then it's getting,
Because I don't think you well, I see what you're saying. Like the charter issues are different in different wards. Is that true? Or do we just need some charter parents? Like, would you need a charter parent from every ward? Does that matter? Or is it more just important that, say we had at least,
I was just, I'm the devil's advocate. I'm thinking that,
no,
okay,
I'm just
so
throwing it out.
everybody's
Yeah.
chosen and there are 15 high school parents.
Right. No, we don't want that. We definitely want.
No, I
the
know.
range. Yeah.
Well, we got high school and middle school and elementary schools. So we got 3 different,
But this is
difference.
where I think reaching out to the schools would be useful, so you're reaching out to all levels and asking, who are your families you think we should reach out to? And not just the families you think we should reach out to, but families who would help us to reach out to other families. So I think if I reach out to, Maria Tukeva and Art Mola and ask them, they will hook me up with theirs. And then I'll also ask my elementary principals, and then we'll get the range I think that we want. Does
Cool.
that, yeah.
So I think we can like chart it out. Like this is becoming like more of a nuance of planning. And I think we can like chart out, timeline, who we need to invite, that kind of stuff. But essentially it'll be ward level engagement to get ideas on how parents want us to proceed related to engagement, what's happening, in hopes to circle back and relate it to advocacy or
Yeah, we need a rubric.
I
Seriously.
guess.
No, we do. We just need a guideline.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's more. of part-
I'm not,
Okay, cool.
rubric is a positive word for me. It's not a negative word.
In my head, I was just kind of like, Okay,
Seriously.
Yeah. But yeah, I think thank you, Emily, for pulling together the options, and I think we
great.
can definitely tease out we can tease out more if we like just sit down and just kind of plug in plans. I think
Yeah,
that's a good start.
Speaking with staff will probably be helpful for next steps, right? And passing
Yeah.
these ideas by them.
Malaya, do y'all do like a almost like an event sheet, like like it has a timeline, who's responsible for what, considerations for like engagement, like do y'all have a committee, like a planning chart when y'all plan events for staff? Okay, yeah, we'll circle back to staff. So yeah, that's really all that we have. So definitely next steps would be in relation to what we heard from public comment is advocating for volunteer teachers and subs. And that could even be like a cool, I'm almost like a promo commercial that board members can give a spiel or something. I think that'd be fun versus the usual letter. We can do both. And then try to have like an intimate chat with the chancellor to some of the social emotional learning issues that we've heard. And then we will move forward with the parent advisory committee or council work by doing ward level engagement. And we'll basically just start planning out timeline, content, how to reach out to a variety of parents to get as many folks as engaged as possible. And then from that initial ward level engagement, move forward with next steps on like how to get parents connected to the SBOE work. Sound good?
So would it, maybe it would be best to invite PAVE to our February meeting.
Yeah, or I mean, we can invite them to our January meeting. We're just
Well,
not.
the reason I'm saying that is I would much rather talk to some people in the system about the other problems that we've been talking about today on our next meeting. And then,
That's right. Yeah,
you understand what I mean?
yeah.
Because
No,
like this thing about the clearance is immediate. That needs to be fixed right away.
but we
and
could
this-
do that outside of our meeting too. We could just arrange a phone call with all of us, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if it needs to be.
Because I'd rather it not be a public, like this is recorded. I'd rather it be a phone call, where we can just have a chat and find out like what the thinking was behind
Now,
it. So that-
let me, is this being
I don't think we're
recorded?
talking about the same thing. Yes, we're always.
It's being recorded. But what does that mean?
So people are actually on right now, like the public is
I
on.
thought they had to have 4 people.
No, it's just, you can't.
Any
No.
meeting has to be public. Any of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I didn't say anything untoward.
So yeah, we'll figure out next steps. I don't think we have to get too deep into the weeds. I think we can figure out most of these nuances about how to engage. I think the overall thing is we want to move forward with parent engagement at the ward level. So,
Great.
all right. If all minds and hearts are clear, we're gonna adjourn. How do I stop recording? Here we go. All right.